All right, welcome to a PowerPoint video lecture on hiring and firing. This week, we're going to talk about the importance of investing time in looking at your hiring procedures, why and how we hire, how you terminate, and then I have a couple of resources that you might want to have open or have taken a look at as I'm talking this to you, if this is an area of focus or an area that you want to work on. I have page 212 to 234 of the textbook is fairly good about this, introducing these topics and the importance of it. And then also on Canvas, I have a PDF from Gail Jack's Business of Childcare called Personnel Policies, and that is on Canvas already for you. I have quite a few of her resources online. She's a fantastic resource for very much the business of childcare, and that's literally what her book is called. And it's a very straightforward text. It's easy to find on Amazon and fairly cheap as well. So if any of you are interested in more of the business aspects of early childhood education and running programs, this would be a great resource for you. But I have two of the resources already online for you, so you might want to take a look at it as we're going through some of this work today. So typically when I share videos, there are resources that you can share with your staff as well. This is just to really kind of illustrate the point of why we should spend some time working on hiring and then firing teachers, because we've all worked with those kind of crappy teachers before who don't care about kids, don't care about families, don't know why you're in it. It's not like we have these huge paychecks or large bonuses or stipends or anything. So it's just kind of a humorous video illustrating really the importance of hiring well. But why should we recruit? Some of us do go out and recruit people. We typically do it through our networks. And then why should we care about hiring or procedures or panel interviews or anything like that? Because we do have large staff turnover in this field, not only because of the working conditions, which we'll get to later about ways that we can improve working conditions, but also just the nature of the job. Sometimes people go back to school. Our areas too are affected by the military, people getting orders, moving away. My daughter's first preschool teacher, that happened to her in the middle of the school year. Super sorry to see her go, but that's just the nature of the game when you live and work in Oceanside. That might happen, and we were happy to send her on her way to her next order station with her husband. I think the biggest thing in the reason that you have to do mission statements and all of this kind of macro level work is because you need to know what your vision of education is so that you can hire staff that align themselves with that vision. Why is firing important and why do we talk about it? Because really it ends a non-productive business relationship. So I am really a proponent of action plans, and that's what she'll be writing this week, and performance plans as well. So I want to give all of my employees, unless they've done something so egregious like damage a child in some way or just something terrible, I really for the most part give people an opportunity to change. If the staff member cannot change adequately or has not shown improvement, we need to let these people go. They are going to in the long run hurt our program, hurt the education, and we don't want to put them in situations where they could hurt children or the relationships that we have with families. So some of the procedures we're going to talk about, but very specifically within hiring, is you need to think about what you want, first of all. You need to identify the need in your program. Is this something that you can do with an aide? This is something that you need a mentor teacher for. Is this a janitor position? What is the actual need in your program? And then the details of this need. I only need somebody for 6 hours. I need somebody 6 hours a week. I need somebody 9 hours a day. Whatever it is, 10 hours a day for 4 days. There's going to be specific details of need. And then you need to write your actual job description. So you need to be specific about it in as much detail as that you're going to want to need. And then you're going to need to advertise with less detail. Then you're going to screen. Make sure that the people who are coming in, don't waste your time on people that don't have the permit that you need. If you need a master teacher permit and people are giving you aid permits, a mismatch, it's not gonna fulfill that need. Don't waste their time and your time interviewing them. Evaluate them after you interview them, and this is really important. This is where discrimination might come into play, is your interview and your actual evaluation of them. Then you notify them. Typically you notify, if you had a top 5 top 3. I typically like to notify the people who weren't chosen and give them reasons why. I had somebody do that with me a couple of years ago with a job that I didn't get, but he gave me fantastic feedback about things that I could do in order to make myself a more competitive employee on the next round, and I really, really appreciated that. It gave me like next steps that I needed to work on so that possibly in the future I could get this kind of county position job. And then you do want to notify the person that actually gets the job so that you can start the ball rolling on all the human resources things with job contracts. Then you're going to train them, and I think this is really important. Sometimes you don't have a week, 2-week long time period to train, but the first morning that somebody is there, they literally probably shouldn't just walk into the classroom and start supervising. A lot of times that does happen, but we need to remind them about all of the important things that they're doing, and we need to give them time with kind of a mentor teacher or a lead teacher. And then we check in and supervise all employees as an ongoing job requirement of us as directors. So for identifying a need, I need a teacher and I need a bus driver. So what time of employment is it going to be? It's going to be part-time, but there will be the possibility to have benefits after 3 months. Hours of work, it's going to be a split shift. I need somebody 6:30 in the morning to 8:30 in the afternoon to get our school-age children, our kindergartners and our first graders to the local elementary school. And then in the afternoon, I need somebody to pick them up as well. The rate of pay is $12 an hour for the first 3 months of work. Then after 3 months, you could get $13 an hour with benefits and an educational reimbursement as well. Your essential responsibilities. So this is where you're going to decide, am I Title V or Title 22? You should know what you are. If you don't, once again, email me. If you do know what you are, this is where you would indicate what kind of permits people have or what kind of units people need to have. I'm just saying that I want 12 units with at least 6 months experience working with school age, and I need a Class C driver's license. So that's like those commercial vehicles. You've probably seen those little buses that like Discovery Island people drive. That's what I'm thinking about. And then I'd want her to have her or him to have experience driving a bus for at least 1 year. So I need somebody who's really comfortable driving and transporting children, have all the requirements that they need, and then also have some experience with children. This would probably be good for a local community college student who is also going to school during the day, but is looking to pick up a little bit of work mornings and afternoons, and has some experience with children, like on the bus, would feel comfortable talking to them, knows about ratios, could go into the office if she thought that a child was missing something like that. Okay, so I'm writing a very specific job description. So the teacher and bus driver will supervise children before and after school and on bus ride to and from school daily. Will provide quality enrichment activities for school-age children before and after school. The key responsibilities: I want her to supervise children on the bus, supervise children before and after school, communicate with parents, and possibly plan daily lesson plans as well. The ability to work well with children, communicate effectively with other teachers, parents, school officials, and supervisors. So the big thing about this job is a standard teaching job description would have communicate effectively with other teachers, parents, and supervisors. In this case, I've also offered school officials. She will be my representative from my center who goes to the school district. She'll have to communicate with elementary school teachers, possible principals, duties, and people like that. I need to know that she would be able to do that part of the job. So she needs to have a knowledge of child development, positive behavior techniques, social and emotional development of school-age children, what's bullying, what's not. That would be a question that I would ask. I want a high school diploma or GED with 12 units in child development with a C average or higher, a Class C driving license, and experiencing driving commercial vehicles. She must have a Class C driver's license and experiencing driving a commercial van as a special license or permit. I'm not in the type of field where I need a teaching permit at this level. I just have a small business that I'm running in this case. Special requirements: I also want her to have first aid and CPR since she is the one responsible for children, driving them to and from school. All right, so your online assignment is to do what I just did. You're going to write a job description. So on page 233 of the textbook, there's a fantastic example. You are going to make this up. Either this is a need in your program or a future need that you're anticipating, and you can write it in that direction. If you are a teacher or you are somebody who is not a director yet or not in management yet, just think, what kind of teachers would I want? What kind of, site supervisor would I want? Something like that. So you're just picturing yourself as a future manager writing a job description. So what you're going to write is a brief job description with no more than 3 sentences. Key responsibilities. So these are the most essential things that an employee is going to do daily. Probably supervision, probably lesson plannings, but the most essential things of a job. What ability should they have? What do they need to be able to do in order to achieve their job? What knowledge do they have? What parts of child development are relevant for the job? What kind of information, what kind of things should they be aware of? So in my school age one, I had talked about social and emotional development. That would be a key thing that I would really want in a school age program. Minimum qualifications, what educational and professional experience must they have? So if you're in a state-run program and you need somebody to have a permit, then you need to identify what is the lowest permit you will accept, and you need to write that down, and you'll screen for anybody who doesn't have it. A license or permit as well, and then this would also specify how many child development units you wanted if you weren't looking for. Then special requirements, especially for support staff, food handlers permit, a driver who has a license. If you want all of your teachers to have coming to you with CPR and first aid so that you're not worrying about it, what are special things that you need somebody to have? So that is your online assignment for this week. On page 233 of the textbook, there is an example, and in the previous slide, so you could just go back 5 minutes and you could hear me talk about it as well as an example for you. So advertise. First of all, I want to shout out to Palomar. Kelly Donahue, our admin assistant, does a fantastic job of posting our job descriptions on the wall in our MD 105 building, and then we also have an online space as well. Her and Jenny and Diane are also fantastic. If they ever hear through their networks about jobs for directors, assistant directors, or management, they always flip it to me so that I can get it on to you guys in an announcement or something like that. We're really into finding you guys great employment because we really believe if you've gone through this program that we're hoping that you are professionals ready to go out. But you can also, there's a lot, if you need to advertise, there's Palomar, Mira Costa, Mira Mesa, a lot of the community colleges and universities use networking and word of mouth. Especially like Cal State, where I also work, I always kind of forward things at the end of the year in April and May that I'm getting from school age programs that are looking to hire coaches or, because I teach in human development, so that type of thing is a fantastic place as well for summer staff, is looking at students that might want to remain in this area or are going to be working but need to pick up some extra hours, or are going to summer school and need to pick up extra hours as well. So look at universities as well. Also online is fantastic. Craigslist, you know, is so-so, but we do have Indeed, LinkedIn, all of those places as well. Newspapers a little bit less so. I remember finding quite a few jobs back in the day when I was just starting out on the newspaper, but that's less so. A lot of it right now is online or word of mouth. The biggest thing is to take your job description, but make it very, very short. So only take out like the key essential duties, or just a really small part of that job description. And then you also want to include the process for applying, like go to this site for the job description, or go to this website to apply, you know, something like that. Or you need a cover letter and resume, whatever it is, whoever's email it is, include that in the job description as well. You probably want to have something also that is interesting for them, like a reason why they should work for you. So I'm going to read an example that I just made up. So part-time split shift position available at a NIAC accredited center. We need an energetic and fun part-time school-age teacher who can drive children to and from school daily. We support your educational goals and provide educational reimbursement and healthcare benefits after 3 months. That's the reason why you want to work for me. Apply online and provide child development transcripts and 2 references. So really short, very succinct though. Gets the not so good, it's a split shift and it's part-time, but the good, healthcare benefits and an educational reimbursement. You might like that it's NIAC accredited as well. And then we give you what you need to do. Like you need to give us 2 references. So if that's going to be a problem, you're not going to apply for the job. Once again, screen. So 3 piles is fairly typical. Your HR will do this. If you don't have HR, you will do this. So the 3 piles are typically your minimum requirements or more. Meet some, but not all of the minimum requirements, and then eliminated immediately because they don't meet any requirements or very few of the requirements. So like permits, education, GED, you know, if it's not meeting those kind of requirements, eliminate immediately. Don't, you know, maybe in a couple of years you can encourage them to apply, but right now you don't want to waste your precious time looking and interviewing people you can't possibly hire because they don't have units or they don't have a permit. Then sometimes there are chances where maybe you might not they meet some but not all of the minimum requirements. So I have a friend who has a doctorate. When she was in her postdoc She hadn't officially completed it. In order to get into her postdoc, she hadn't technically completed her doctorate when she got hired, but she was well on her way, and she was in a matter of weeks by the time she was going to get that doctorate. So she was offered that position even though she didn't quite have it yet. You might want to do that. Like if somebody it's April and you need 12 units for this position, and she's going to finish in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So by the time she gets on the floor, it's only a week and a half. That might be something that you want to look at. Like if it's going to be a really short time and you really like this person and you can deal with not having a teacher with 12 units, she'll just be an aide for a while and then she can be a full teacher in that 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month before she gets those units, you might want to consider that. And then you're definitely, if they meet the minimum requirements and more, that's definitely in your, you want to interview that pile. So typically you'll have somebody call and contact candidates, either yourself or somebody else on the management team or an office manager or office administrator. Set up interviews. If you can, do it over a week to stay fresh. When I would hire a lot of people, I would do it over 2 to 3 days. Like right before I would go on lunch, so like 10 to 12, something like that, in order to stay fresh. If you're doing 4 to 6 in a day, that can be a lot, and you might not give those people your full attention, or you might just be a little bit cynical and not as wanting much to hire people when you schedule too many within your day. But sometimes we just have to knock it out. Possible set up a panel, but I really always want to have at least 2 people interviewing at one time. This could include experienced staff members, lead teachers, mentors, something like that. It doesn't, if you are just the director, full stop at your program, one of your teachers has for other administrative classes, and that's how you guys kind of roll, which there are lots of small programs like that. Or if you're a FCC home, having the person that's about to leave interview with you. I think it's really important to have a second person. That's when those protected classes or discrimination things could come up. So having a second person in the room who can say, no, we didn't discriminate. And then also asking fairly, pretty much I would always ask the same questions. I had 50 copies of this one page. It talked about, there was an infant toddler one, there was a preschool one, there's a school age one. They had similar questions, and then they would veer off a little bit. Infant and toddler would ask about biting. Preschool would ask about hitting and working with parents, and then school age would ask about bullying. But for the most part, they started off with the same questions, and they talked age appropriate, but then each person who came in had all of those questions, and I would keep them for a matter of years out in storage somewhere. So if anybody ever came back, I could say, well, here it is, and this is how similar it is to everybody else's. I wasn't discriminating because everybody had the same questions when they interviewed. I might go beyond it, but I always started off with those 10 questions that were fairly standard for the age range that they were interviewing for. But if somebody came to me and was like, well, I went to Italy and I started Reggio, I'd be like, well, hold up, tell me about that. That sounds awesome, Or I just got my master's and I'm a master teacher, but I'm really excited to start from the ground up as an aide. And be like, okay, well, if you're willing to have 12 units and 12.50 an hour, then we're definitely going to hire you. Something like that. So you might go off script, but for the most part, you're starting with those standards questions. And you have somebody else in your interviews with you. That's one of the best 2 ways that I can give you from my experience to have consistent hiring practices, and also to kind of not be liable if anybody was to come back with like discriminatory hiring practices. Those 2 things that you set up for yourself would really help your program. But the interview questions, like I said, I had fairly consistent ones. I had lots of copies of them. There was an infant toddler, a preschool, and a school age one that I used. I did a lot of open-ended ones. Tell us about yourself was on all of them. And then ways to evaluate their qualifications. So what kind of curriculum do you enjoy and how do you lesson plan would be on all of the ones as well. I give a lot of scenarios as well. So if we have mad parents, child abuse, biting. So for example, 6 years old is upset because they were playing checkers and they lost, they flipped the board. None of the children want to play with them. How would you help the child in the classroom? What are ways that you could help him in the future? And then I would evaluate how well they lesson plan, how well they have classroom management, how well they deal with other children, socially and emotionally, what do they know? So I do like the scenario questions as well. Once again, they should be similar or the same in order to allow for equal opportunity for all of the candidates to be interviewed fairly. Interviews go both ways, and this is important. And if somebody came in super nervous, I would say, like, this is your opportunity to interview me too. Like, we need to make sure we're a good fit together. So you need to be able to talk eloquently about what type of ECE program. Once again, if they're Reggio and you're academic, that's a mismatch. Same with parents, it's probably not going to end well. You want to talk about the job description, the job contract. They probably want to ask you questions about dismissal or termination procedures. A big thing, if you provide benefits, that's a good draw and a way to get really good teachers within your program. An evaluation of job performance and possible raises, job description, and then probationary periods as well. So once you've interviewed a bunch of people, now you need to evaluate. It's really good, once again, to do it as a group or committee, so that person who interviewed with you or somebody similar to that, a lead, a mentor, an assistant director, something like that. Give input in helping with evaluation. This is another way that we can prevent discriminatory practices when we're hiring, is having committees or groups looking over the similar questions that were used for everybody, and then making sure that they meet those minimum qualifications again. And then we need to make sure that they are going to fulfill the best part of that need in your program. So are they the best fit for the program, with their classroom team that they're going to go into, with the type of curriculum that you use. You just need to make sure that, like puzzle pieces, that person is going to be as good a fit as possible. All right, so once again, when you hire, you should inform the candidate if they've been selected, and then possibly consider not telling them why they haven't, especially if it's a mentor, a lead, assistant director, site supervisor, kind of something fairly high up. If you really liked them, and you think that they would respond well to this, I think it's a nice thing and a professional thing to tell them, we loved you. We're not going to offer you the job at this point, but we loved interviewing you. We'd love to have you come back and interview in the future. And these are the types of things that you might want to be looking at, like getting your master teacher permit or something like that, so that when you come back, we, will want to hire you, or we'll have no choice but to hire you, something like that. Like I said, somebody did that for me a couple of years ago. It doesn't always happen, but if you think the person would be responsive, it can be a nice thing to do. And then once you've hired them, obviously you have a watertight job contract. We started working on one. You've gone through multiple iterations of it. You've written it multiple times. So you're going to explain the job contract in writing and verbally. You're going to have the employees sign that they read it and understand it, and you're going to sign it as well. Then you're going to articulate in that job contract pay, benefits, probation period, hours that they work. Just minimize any possible confusion issues before their training and employment begins. So this is literally just the business part of, I'm going to pay you to be here every day between 8 and 5, and this is what you're going to do. These are how many children you're going to supervise. So then you need to train them. At the very least, the employee manual or the employee handbook is printed out. Procedures and policies are read, understood, and signed. That's the very minimum. I think that there should be more of it. Watching videos, having conversations. If they don't know things, making sure that they have some time to do it. Also having experienced employees help train as well. So going into classrooms with mentor teachers or lead teachers so that they can help learn, teach them procedures and rules of classrooms, like where trash goes and this is how we make bleach and all that type of stuff. And then you definitely want to formally and informally monitor their progress in the first couple weeks as well. Typically, I would have some kind of formal observation later on, maybe 2 to 3 months in, probably around 2 months before we hit that 3-month mark. And then informally as well, in the classrooms a lot, asking if they need help, do they feel supported, and then also just keeping my eye on things, making sure I'm there during pickup and drop off, nap times, lunch times, bathroom transitions, some of those more difficult times, to make sure that they are kind of following the policies and procedures and really the vision of my program. So what happens if we have issues with job performance? And this is for all staff, so not just new hires, but hiring and firing go together. That's why I've kind of put it together. So if you're having problems with a new hire, and then if you're having problems with a staff member, then typically you'll start off with supervision and mentoring. So, just in the classroom, you've kind of noticed a few typical things. You might want to talk to them about it, see how their day is going. Maybe they're just a little stressed this week, and then next week, totally fine. I guess it was just a blip that one day, that she seemed a little, kind of, with the kids, it was just Tuesday, it never happened again. It was a blip in her performance. Okay, you know, we can move on from it. If you're consistently noticing that your staff members are struggling with the children, or being a little bit less than polite with the other staff members, or parents, or lesson plans, whatever it is, then you need to start a formal communication of measurable and achievable ways to improve job performance. So this would either be formal professional development, but more often than not, it's a plan of action. Professional development can be something that all staff do regardless of their job performance. But typically when we want to change their job performance because of issues arising, that's a plan of action. So I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. If it has not endangered children, hurt staff members, or parents, then I believe that we should offer somebody a plan of contract, a plan of action in order to improve their job performance. So if it's an egregious breach of contract or conduct, how they've treated other people, or not supervising, or having an unhealthy or unsafe environment for children, in those cases, that's an immediate termination. If not, it's attendance, behavior, performance, anything like that, then you're going to write a plan of action. And that is this week's online assignment. So there are 2 parts to it, each part being worth 5 points. So one is to write a job description that I talked about earlier, and now you're going to do a plan of action and use the template that I provided on Canvas to write a plan of action. Once again, if you're on a Mac or you just can't seem to make the template work, you can go ahead and recreate it. So we're going to include measurable and achievable ways to correct the issue. So you're going to make up a reason an employee needs to work on their performance, and you're going to identify ways to support them. So it could be behavior. They're always calling out sick and they've gone over all their paid time off for the year. They're always late. They didn't follow discipline policy a couple of times. They're not communicating well with their coworkers. They're a little bit rude in the office or in the staff break room, something like that. So this week, you're going to write a plan of action. You're going to use the template that I have. Once you see it, it'll be very self-explanatory. You're just going to come up with the reasons. So you're going to make up an imaginary employee, and you're going to make up an imaginary plan of action as well. So immediate termination, if they're leaving children unsupervised, if there's health and safety procedure concerns, if the environment is unsafe for children, coworkers, or parents. It's inappropriate conduct with children, families, or staff, verbal or physical, speaking harshly or threateningly to a child, being disrespectful to coworkers and management, or speaking disrespectfully and inappropriately to parents or families. So there's got to be a specific reason that it violates the job contract, and it should be an egregious breach. So something in the job contract that they're supposed to do, if they have broken it and they have made the environment unsafe or unhealthy for children, families, or other staff members, then you need to immediately terminate them. You need to void the job contract, and you need to write up specifically how they broke the job contract. You need to document it and put it into the employee's file. If they were to come back and say that they had been dismissed unfairly or they had been discriminated against, having that background and having that documentation of why this person was fired and how they violated the job contract can be really helpful for you. So it's typically a process of termination, even when it's immediate. So let's say the plan of action, they're still calling out excessively, or they're coming in late, and no plan of actions over a couple of weeks has been able to change it, or it's an immediate termination, like they left children unsupervised on the playground. You're still going to involve a team or at least another person to witness the termination. So this means you grab a teacher from the classroom, or somebody from another site comes over. I even came back, I left for the day, and then there was only one director there. When I left, we were a multiple team. We had a very large program, but I was the last person to leave at 5. At 5:15, I got the phone call. I literally just got home, and I turned right back around to support my other coworker, my other management team in kind of firing this person. That doesn't happen very often, but when it does, a team is really, really important as well. Tempers flare. So, I did have somebody take a swipe at me. She didn't punch me or hit me, but she kind of tapped me as she was leaving. So that's a reason why you should have a team. If it had gone beyond that, we might have had to involve security or police. I don't think that she ever was. I think she was just really, really upset, and she felt that it was unfair. I think it was unfair that she didn't supervise children, but that's another thing. I think the biggest thing is we remain compassionate and respectful. So even though I was very upset that there had been this situation where a child had been unsupervised, and yes, it was only for a minute or two, but at the end of the day, we cannot have unsupervised children on the playground. It was only for a short amount of time, but in this case, that person needed to go, but I needed to remain compassionate of the fact that, as upset as I was about the situation, this person was still losing their employment, and I needed to be calm, respectful, and give them the reasons. Like, this is what happened. You know, it's unacceptable. It was a breach of our job contract. So we're going to have to let you go. We're going to accompany you to the classroom. You're going to pick up all of your things, and you're going to leave for today. Later on, we will cut you a check, and Human Resources will give it to you as a cut physical check tomorrow. And then you can also talk to them about any of your benefits, things like that. And then take them to the classroom, they take their stuff, and they leave. Keeping yourself really low, maybe even monotone. Try not to inflame the situation, because in this case, you know, it happened. I was upset, but I tried to keep myself really compassionate about the situation, and she was really upset. You know, she did swat at me, and that was the worst case that's ever happened to me. But you know, I do get a little upset even thinking about it, but at the same time, I do try to put myself in her position, that she was losing her employment. She felt that it was unfair, you know, all of these types of things. And that's why you have another person to witness it. You have another person to help you write it up and document it. And then also those discriminatory practices. If you have two people involved in all of these types of things, that can really limit the liability that you have as well. It's not very typical for people to take a swipe at you, but it's always nice to have a second person around, especially because it's a hard thing. You never want to fire people, and that's what I see. And I'm a big proponent of firing people who are not good at their jobs. Go do something else. If you can't work with children, go try another field. If this is going to be the push that you need in order to go back to school and become a phlebotomist, or go back to school and work at a bank, you know, whatever it is, if you're not happy working with children, we need to set them free to go on their own path to make education better for the children that we have. If termination is the end result of a plan of action, you do need to document that in that job performance was not improved by the agreed upon date. So you need to have kind of receipts for this. So if they're always clocking in late, printing out those types of things before it's their last day and they're removed from the computer, or listing all of the excessive dates that they called out sick, you know, something like that. You need to have a little bit of receipts, especially if they were on a plan of action, to show, look, they didn't improve this. This is why we had to do this. And then with immediate termination, with the other person documenting the serious concerns and terminating employment on that day as well. And then keep it in their employee file, like I said. Okay, so this is a nice video. It's how to fire employees in 5 easy steps. It is on YouTube as well. It is not specific to our industry, but I think it gives you some really good reasons about why you should fire people. And I think YouTube is a great resource for these human resource concerns. So in conclusion, there's a lot of policy and procedure in hiring staff, because we want quality staff. We want it to be an equal and systematic and fair and consistent way for everybody, and we want to make sure that the people that we hire are going to be a good fit for our program. Also, at the end of the day, if we have a non-productive business relationship and somebody is not doing what they're supposed to, and they are not providing great education for children every day, that's going to impede our ability to run a quality program, and we need to have a plan of action. We need to somehow improve their performance, or we need to immediately terminate them. All right, this is one of 2 videos. Thanks so much.